a different background in every single video. This is not going to be a trend. There are not a lot of places for me to sit down and do a video in this house. So it's not going to be a different background every time. That was kind of an accident, just sort of happened. Hi everybody! Today we're going to be discussing what you should do when a brilliant idea strikes. Sometimes inspiration comes when you're in the middle of Walmart. Sometimes it comes when you're sleeping. Sometimes it comes when you're actually sitting at your desk with a computer or pencil or whatever you use to write. So what do you do when the inspiration comes and you're not necessarily sitting down to write at that moment? Number one rule, write it down. Doesn't matter where you are, you have to write it down. Because your brain is not going to remember whatever brilliant idea you just had. You might remember little pieces or a big idea, but you're not really going to remember that brilliant idea. So you have to write it down. If you're already sitting at your desk, that's easy enough. If you're in the middle of Walmart, it's a little harder. So you should invest in a small notebook or journal, something of that sort, something that can fit in your purse, something that can be written on. So when these crazy ideas strike, you can take a minute and write it down so you don't forget. Write down the characters, the plot, quote, whatever random thing jumped in your head. Sometimes it'll be little things, sometimes it'll be a whole story. Just make sure you're writing it down so that later, when you are actually at your desk, you'll have those notes and you'll be able to create the story. You don't take those notes, you'll be sitting at your computer, desperately clinging to all those little shards that are left of that idea and trying to piece them together and cutting your hand, and it'll be a mess. So write it down as soon as you get the idea. If you're in the middle of Walmart, just pull out your notebook, write down, then go back to shopping. If you're in bed, you sit up and turn on a light and start writing, whatever. You get the idea. Write it down. And as soon as you have the opportunity, actually sit down and start the creation of the story, which is different for everybody, whether that be starting with outlining or whatever. You do your thing. I'm just saying, when you get that idea, write it down. For me, how it works, if I get the idea, wherever I happen to be, make some quick notes, save it for later. And at the earliest opportunity, as soon as I possibly can, so it's still fresh in my head, I sit down at my computer and I start to write. Sometimes there's a brief 10-15 minutes before I actually sit down to write where I let the ideas bounce around in my head, watch them on my amazing flat screen TV that's up there. I swear I have the coolest TV in my head. But I get the ideas going up there, and then I sit down, and for me, when I get an idea for a story, I don't just write down ideas or make a simple outline or whatever and then come back to it when I'm actually ready to write the story. My personal way of writing down my ideas is to write the first 2 or 3 chapters. I just sit down after letting the story bounce around for a few minutes, sit down and just start writing. And I get introduced to new characters that way, and I get an idea of where the story is actually going, and then I'm good. I don't necessarily write the whole book at that point. Well, obviously not in one sitting, but I mean over that month or whatever, I'm not focused on that story because I have other projects in the works. This is just how I get the ideas out, is to write the first 2 or 3 chapters. And it does really help. I have hundreds of novels in the works that are just 2 or 3 chapters or whatever. I can sit down and all I have to do is read those 2 or 3 chapters that I have, and I'm suddenly in the story again. I know what's happening, I get the feel, the tone of the story. So that's why I do my ideas that way. I just write out the first few chapters and it's ready when I need to come back to it. And then when I actually come back to it, I start outlining and actually doing the writing process. But yeah, that's how I do my ideas. That doesn't work for everybody. Just sitting down and writing chapters of an unknown story doesn't really work for all peoples, but that's my way of doing it. But what will work for you is writing it down. You get an idea, you're at a party at a friend's house. An idea pops in your head. Just go sit in a corner and write it all down. Put it in your purse. Come back to it later. It'll work. Just make sure you're writing those ideas down. I think that's it for today. Write it down. I have a link in the description where you can find all 4 of my currently published books and be looking for my 3rd Robin Hood story to be published soon. It'll be this month sometime. Not exactly sure when yet, but be on the lookout. Look, I braided my hair.